everybody to another edition of Vibing
with the Bostons, episode 2.
Thank y'all for joining us. And we appreciate everybody who, looked in on the first episode. If you haven't, please feel free to look in on the other episode, the first episode that is, and join us. Join us. Join our group. We just created a group, Vibing with the Bostons group.
Yes.
Like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, our YouTube page, and our Facebook page, Vibing with the Bostons. And join the community.
Yes,
we got some good stuff for y'all. Like we said on the first video, we got some good things coming down the pipeline. And, we want y'all to join us and be partakers, with what's coming. We got some goodies.
Yes, we do.
Definitely. We got some good things coming. We got giveaways and all of that. You know what I mean? And like I said, we got some good inspirational things coming, and we just want to help. We just want to change the algorithm and all of that. But enough with that. This is episode 2, and we're gonna be talking about what life was like before we transition over to the lifestyle that we living in right now. You know what I mean? And that's being saved, being sanctified, baptized in Jesus' name, filled with the Holy Ghost. And it was a process, y'all, I must say.
It was.
It wasn't an easy thing.
No.
We kind of touched bases on it a little bit in the first episode, how things were when we were younger. But, we're going to kind of go in depth, a little bit more in depth in this episode. And it might take, a few additional episodes for us to get to, where we are right now.
Yes.
You know what I mean? In terms of how it was, up until the peace that, God has bestowed upon us right now. So, we're going to open it up a little bit. You want me to talk a little bit first, or you want to,
you can compare.
All right. She wants me to go a little bit first. So, I'm going to kind of talk about, my childhood and what it was like, when I was a shorty, a little pipsqueak, and some of the things that I've experienced growing up, as a youngster. And before I do that, I just want to say that, when you're young, it's very, very imperative that you have, a voice, somebody that's in your ear, that's going to really teach you and train you, how to conduct yourself as a child. There's a scripture in the Bible that says, train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he get old, he will not depart. And I found that to be very, very, very true indeed. Because the way that you train your kids and what you teach them and what you put in them is gonna be a manifestation of how they're going to conduct themselves as they get older. And don't get me wrong, there are parents out there that really put a lot of that into their kids. They pump that into their kids. But one of the things that we all know is that you're responsible for the decisions that you make. I tell my kids, the decisions that you make are going to impact your life, whether it be good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
It can have a positive impact. It can have a negative impact.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can be those parents that, pump positivity in your kids and tell them what they need to do and tell them what they don't need to do. But influences and peer pressure is a real thing.
Yep.
At the end of the day. And that'll really, if you allow that to, get into your lifestyle, it'll really, really shape who you, come up to be.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's what happened to me at the end of the day. When I was young, I did a lot of things that, I shouldn't have, and it caused me to suffer a lot of consequences, as I got older. But, I started off when I was about 6 years old, you know what I mean? And I kind of touched on it a little bit in the last episode, I just didn't have any guidance. I didn't have any real voices in my ear to tell me, which way to go and how to do this. I wasn't even going to school at 6. And I know y'all like, man, really? Yeah, 6, 7 years old, I wasn't going to school. I'd get dressed for school, brush my teeth, wash my face, get my book bag and leave the house, and I ain't go to school. Me and some of my little homeboys get together, and they mama to go to work and all of that, and we'll be at their house, or we'll be somewhere, at the park. I remember, it was a park in the old neighborhood that I lived in on the east side of Chicago. It'd be like 9 o'clock, and we'll be at the park. You know what I'm saying?
At the park.
Yeah, we'll be at the park like 9, 10 o'clock, and just doing just like a lot of crazy stuff at a young age. And when I look back over my life, I think like, man, I used to do that, and I used to do that. I was stealing at an early age. I would go inside of stores and steal a little candy and steal candy bars, and just opening up a door to become a criminal. And again, that's because I didn't have that guidance. I didn't have anybody to be in my ear to tell me, don't do this and don't do that, or make sure you do this and make sure you do that. You know what I mean? The Bible said you spare a rod, you spare a child. And I don't remember getting a whole lot of whoopings when I was young, at the end of the day. But I do remember going through some tough things to where, I had a lot of things that were kind of said to me that stuck, made me really think that I wasn't going to amount to anything, that I was going to become a statistic, or, I was a product of my environment. So I was really a product of my environment, and I had things told to me and things that I experienced that made me think that I wasn't really going to make it, out in the streets of Chicago. About the time I became like between 12 and 14, I had jumped off the porch, you know what I mean? And I was just doing things, staying out late, drinking, smoking, partying, and doing all of that at an early age, you know what I mean? And about time I was like my freshman going into my sophomore year of high school, you know what I'm saying? I was influenced by, one of my family members, one of my cousins, God rest his soul, and he was getting a lot of money in the streets, and he was big time in the streets. I ain't gonna put it all out there, but he was big time in the streets, and that was an influence that I had, at the end of the day. He wasn't one of them ones that, be in my ear to tell me like, man, go to school, do this, do that. He did what he did, and I was influenced by that. You know what I mean? I was influenced by cousins in my family that sold dope, sold weed. You know what I mean? They was in gangs and all of that. I ain't had nobody in my family that graduated from college and, you know what I mean, obtained degrees and, somebody that you could model, that behavior after and all of that. Watch him walk across the stage and all of that. I didn't see that coming up. I saw mischief. I saw street life. I saw struggle. I saw pain. I saw, my mama on public aid. You know what I mean? Didn't have a whole lot of money and things of that nature. I saw poverty. Roaches in the house, rats in the house. You know what I mean? The gutter. I saw that. So me waking up to that and seeing what I saw in my family, caused me to develop the mindset of being out in the streets and being, joining a gang and all of that. And so by the time I was 15, going into my sophomore year, one of my buddies had introduced me, to some work. That's crack, that's cocaine, you know what I'm saying? And he like, man, I got an 8-ball for you, here, and me, I wanted to get some money because I didn't have a job, and all of that. So tried my hand at hustling and all of that. And, another one of my little buddies gave me 2 guns, and I had 2 pistols in the house. And then I had dope in the house. You know what I mean? And my cousin he was killed. He was shot multiple times. And that kind of changed my mindset and caused me to become, just rugged, and it did something to my mindset. It made me depressed. It made me angry. It made me sad, because I looked up to him, at the end of the day. The influence, it wasn't a positive influence in terms of, like I said, walking across the stage, obtaining a degree or whatever the case may be. But I was infatuated by what I saw with him getting money and different cars and clothes and all of that. So I wanted that. That's why I said it's important that you train your kids, and you show them and you teach them and train them in a way that they should go. So because that'll stick. They might make some decisions and things of that nature, but I guarantee you it'll be in their mental cranium that, oh, I got a mom or a dad or auntie or uncle or a cousin or somebody that I look up to. That's that voice that I'm able to lend my ear to and listen to what they're saying. So just to start off with what I experienced, I ended up joining the Black Disciple gang, and again, following after my cousin's footsteps, who I considered as a brother, because I was raised, by my aunt, my loving aunt, who brought me in, and all of that. And, just watching what I watched. And I also watched her go through some things when she lost her son, so it kind of caused her to not really be a voice in my ear as well, because she was going through what she went through at the time, and I didn't understand. You know what I mean? I needed somebody to really, put something in my ear and let me know, hey, it's gonna be fine, it's gonna be good. So I experienced depression. I would sit in dark rooms and smoke blunts, several blunts. You know what I mean? And I would be outside, and then I became a stick-up kid and started robbing people because I ain't had no money. You know what I mean? I couldn't get a job because I ain't know how to fill out a job application, because ain't nobody never teach me that. You see what I'm saying? So when you're not taught the things that you should be taught, you're going to gravitate to the streets. And the streets going to tell you, come here, take this pack, go sell this. The streets is going to, there's no love in the streets, but you look for somebody, and the OGs in the street is going to come snatch you, and put their arm around you and, tell you, look, we here for you and all of that. So that's really what happened to me. I got acquainted, with some of the BDs on in the area that I lived in, you know what I mean, and other areas in Chicago and all of that. And, I just started, gang banging and doing things that I just shouldn't have did, and it got worse from there. But, I'm gonna let my wife speak a little bit about, some of her experiences, and then we just gonna kind of, talk a little bit more as we go, and all of that. But yeah, childhood was very, very extremely rough for me.
Yeah, we all had some rough childhoods. I tell you, back in the early '90s, it was pretty rough. But with me, well, I was in a 2-parent household. My dad, R.T. Russell, he died in '92, and I don't remember what age I was. Amnesia. But he died in '92, and my mom, she pretty much raised me and my brother. I was adopted. I did know my biological mother. I did know my father. Was they in my life? No. But I did have a very good, loving mother, Amma. I was raised in church. I was raised under Kojic She did keep us before the Lord. I grew up to know who the Lord was. Um, yeah, it wasn't all so great. My mom worked. She struggled to take care of us. Of course, we was on government assistance at the time. My mom worked nights. She was a caretaker for the elderly. And pretty much I had to grow up real fast. But I was loved. But not the love that I felt that I needed. There was a void in my heart. From a lot of different things, a lot of different reasons. A lot of things happen at a young age. Do my family know? Some of them may do, some of them may don't. But a lot of things back then they don't talk about. It gets swept under the rug, and it be silent stuff. Nobody really says anything about it. But I know a lot of us suffered that because as we get older, it started to become troublesome to our mental and to our life. And that's kind of what happened to me. I was a very quiet person. I stayed to myself. I deal with a lot of silent things, a lot of silent depression, a lot of hurt, a lot of trauma, things I couldn't explain, things I couldn't understand at that time. Back then, when you try to go seek out help and tell them certain things, back then I was a liar. I lied about a lot of different things. I was a kid, so a lot of stuff I lied about. So when I did go tell my mom or my family member, my sister, they pretty much didn't believe me. So I kind of just left things alone that was happening back then. I just kind of left it alone, and it just started to follow me out through my childhood, moving into my teenage years and stuff like that. I got pregnant when I was 13. I had my first kid when I was 14. By the time I got 15, I got pregnant again. Let me just say that I got pregnant again. So my kids is 2 years apart. So I got pregnant again. And at 14, had them when I was 15. So they 2 years apart. By an older guy that was much older than me. I started going left. I wasn't really taking care of my kids. My mom took care of my kids up until I came to Kenosha, Wisconsin. I was so locked in with this guy that was very older than me, which is my son's dad. And I was just pretty much running with him, to smoking the weed. I started smoking weed at 12, by the way. I started smoking weed at 12 years old. I know, right? He started smoking too at 12. And that's when I kind of really jumped off the porch, to be honest. It's at 12. At 12, when I started smoking weed, I just started doing all kinds of stuff at that point. I was in and out of school. I was dropping out. I was going. It's because I got with an older guy that was more experienced than me. He was much so in the streets, the gang, the drugs. And I kind of started liking that stuff. I kind of, was going left with everything. And I had my son at 15. My son was diagnosed with spina bifida. Some of you don't know what spina bifida is. He was born with fluid on the brain, hydrocephalus. He was born with a open spine. I think it was like his L5. It was low. So it affected his lower part of his body, like his bowels, his bladder, things like that. Then he had to get a VP shunt in his brain, and that's to keep the fluid off his brain because he was born with a hole in his brain. So they had to put a shunt in there to keep the fluid draining off his brain so it don't fill up in his brain. But so I had to take care of my son. I had to get familiar with that. And then he got cancer when he was 2. My mom passed away before he even got cancer. So I had to do all this by myself. So as my son had to go through chemo and all those things, I had to take care of my son, going back and forth to Children's Hospital. Can you imagine a 16-year-old having to deal with that, having to take care of son? And then I still had 2 other kids. Yep, I had 2 other kids that I had. No, one, sorry. I had my first kid, Cortez. I had to take care of him, and then I had to take care of Trayvon at the same time. But being that young of an age was real difficult. Then my mom passed away before all this. So I had a lot that I had to deal with. And it caused a lot of more pressure. It caused a little bit more problems that I had to deal with unexpectedly. without really no guidance. I had my Auntie Joan. She kind of helped navigate me through life, which was a blessing. I thank God for her because she taught me a lot. She taught me a lot that I wasn't never taught. She taught me how to be a mom. She taught me how to, do things that a young lady of my age had to do. And I took in all that. And I always tell people that my auntie taught me this. My auntie, even though I don't see her as much or talk to her and stuff like that, I haven't seen her in some time now. But anytime I have an opening and I tell people, I taught all this stuff from my auntie. My mama didn't teach me all of this that I know now. My auntie, my auntie taught me a lot of this stuff. And a lot of things I had to learn from experiences. And it didn't feel good because a lot of things wasn't done the right way. But I just thank God for where I am today. But I suffered a lot of things along this path. This gonna go out for a while because it's a lot in between. So it's definitely it's a lot. It's a lot.
And I wanna just kind of piggyback on what my wife was saying real quick, because and we gonna talk about like what when we met and what I experienced. But I'm gonna kind of jump the gun just a little bit and just say, like, she's like one of the most amazing women that I've met, because like, you listen to what she's saying, like having a child with so many different health issues is tough. That'll take a toll on you right there when you're dealing with that at a young age.
At 16.
And when you've already dealt with childhood trauma and a lot of different things that we're going to discuss a little bit, you know what I mean? Because that childhood trauma, I'm going to say something like generational curses is real.
Yeah, it is for real.
But yeah. I heard someone say before that, like, when you're dealing with a curse, so to speak, it's when someone put in you that you will never make it, or you will never amount to nothing, or you will never be nothing, or ain't nobody gonna want you, or you ain't gonna succeed. That's cursing you right there.
That is, because my family members thought I was gonna have a whole bunch of kids. Yeah. They was like, you ain't gonna do nothing but have a whole house full of kids. Yeah, and I have 4. You know what I'm saying? So, but man, boy.
It's like hearing that, people putting that in your head.
It could become damaging. You could become what they say you are.
Yeah, it's gonna lead you to believe, lead you to believe that that's what you're gonna be. Mm-hmm. Anytime you hear you're not getting that, remember I told when I was telling you guys that when somebody put positivity in you, keep going, keep pushing.
Oh yeah,
you're gonna be the best. You can do it. You can do it. Let me show you how to do this. Mm-hmm. That is gonna motivate you.
That's what we do for our kids.
Mm-hmm. You got to keep putting it in them. You know what I mean? But when you put negativity in, you're cursing them. So that's what I consider as a curse. And I know some of you all watching, think over your life. If somebody ever told you that, like, you ain't gonna never make it, or you ain't gonna never be nothing, or you watched family members do the things that they did and you saw that and you gravitated to that and you looked at it like, oh, well, this is how I should be living. This is why me and my wife, we model righteousness and holiness after our kids, so that they can see that, and don't get me wrong, because I said in the first episode, we didn't have church mannerisms. Like, when we met, we were still young. So as we're going to get into, in upcoming episodes, what we did together and what we experienced together, some of the things that we did. We ain't going to talk about it here, but we're going to give y'all some more content so y'all can anticipate, because we went through a lot together.
We went down through them.
You know what I mean? Prior to where we are right now. But before we met, we went through hell.
Yeah,
and when we met, we went through some more hell.
I'm telling
you. You know what I mean? To get to where we are right now.
Yeah,
and this is
real.
Why, I love the words humility and introspection. Those are two of my favorite words, because it deals with you personally. When you have humility and introspection, that's pointing back to you, you know, and who you are. You know, when I look back over my life, I'm like, man, I used to be this, I used to be that, I was that bad, I was that rough, I was that wild, because that was what was put in me. You know, the curse of you ain't gonna never make it, you ain't gonna never be nothing, ain't nobody gonna never want you, you ain't gonna never, you know, you ugly, you this, you that. Those things will stick, and it'll curse you. But it took God to break that from us.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So you know, we grateful to be
very grateful
in this space, and you all, you know, you might be dealing with something right now. You might have, you know, experienced a whole lot of trauma, a lot of hurt, and a lot of pain, and it might have, you know,
it's
you might
still
still
residue.
be dealing with
it's still residue
today.
On you. Yes,
yeah,
for real.
You know, it might have stuck to you so much so to where it's like you at an age now to where you like, well, forget it. I ain't gonna never be nothing.
Now it's just become like a part of you. It's become the norm of life now, just to what it is, you know. But you don't have to be that way though. You don't have to be. It's a way out. You don't have to live like in misery. You don't.
God
you don't have to, because I mean, He did it for me and him. Well, I mean, He could do it for you too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg of my life, you know. With just having my kids, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't all put together and all fit, frankly together, knitted. No, I was broken with kids. I was still broken, you know, because I suffered damage along the way, you know. Even stuff that I caused on myself. I did a lot of damage to my own self. I don't blame nobody for what I did. I put that on myself. But a lot of stuff as a child, I didn't have no control of that. It's you know, I was a kid, you know, but moving, you know, in my teenage years, those are decisions that I made with my life. Yes, I had kids at a young age. That was my decision. My kids was not an accident. I purposely had my kids. For anybody that want to know, I purposely had every last one of my kids. I wanted a kid at 13 years old. I wanted a kid. You know what I'm saying? And the reason why I wanted to get a kid, because I had a void that wasn't filled. I felt like I wasn't loved. I wasn't getting showed the attention that I needed. Now, my family might say different, but I'm just saying how I felt at that time, why I did what I did. And I felt like I wanted a kid that would love me. Was that right? No, it wasn't right. But the mindset that I was in, I felt like that was right for me at that time as being a kid.
And I want to interject a little bit, because I said this on the first episode, and my wife just kind of brought it in perspective again. In terms of family, we ain't bashing no family members.
No,
this is not, you know what I mean. We just talking about what we experienced.
Yeah, that's it.
You know, personally, that's why ain't nobody naming no names.
No.
We ain't about to be on here and saying Auntie, Jacqueline did this. Uncle Banks did this or whatever.
Exactly.
No,
we're not doing that. I love my family to pieces.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love my family.
And we appreciate, we love our family. We love all of those.
I love my family.
But at the end of the day, we experience some things.
Yeah, that's all.
We experience, a lot coming up, and at the end of the day, it's hard. And when you a child and you don't have that guidance, and you don't have, the people in your ear to teach you and train you, yeah, when you get older, you're gonna make some crazy decisions, wild decisions, some rough decisions,
for sure.
You know what I mean? Because you don't know no better.
No,
you left to yourself. Imagine being a child left to yourself. Like I said, I was 6, 7 years old. Like I should have been in school somewhere. You know what I mean? I didn't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when you get older, that's why there's a lot of youngsters right now that's just stuck in the hood.
They are. They
stuck on the streets, because it starts off, where's the foundation? What was your parents? What did they teach you? how did they train you? But then the parents might have even went through some stuff to
Yeah,
where they didn't
so
know
it's-
how
exactly.
to teach and
So
train
it's
their
hard
kids.
to teach their own
You know what I
children.
mean? That's
so.
why I ain't finna sit and blame my mama or my aunties.
No, not
'cause
mine
they
either.
went through
They,
some things,
I was
you know
thinking
what I
that when
mean?
you was talking, I'm
Yeah,
like,
you know?
they went through stuff, so
Yeah.
it was hard for them
So
to
it was hard
even
for
coach
them.
us or train
You know?
us through life.
At the end of the
You know
day,
what I mean? They may
yeah.
did what they did for us and things like that. Yeah, they provided. Yeah, they sheltered us. You know, yes, they made sure we was good, you know, but there was still things in between that need to be taught to us.
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I'm saying? We needed to be monitored. Some things was unmonitored. You know, uncensored, I must say.
Yeah.
And they probably didn't know that would affect us out through our life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that stuff became effective. You know,
Yeah.
I'm still trying to overcome some stuff with my past. Like
Yeah.
I still got work to do. You know,
Yeah.
still got work to do.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a lot at the end of the day, you know, because you know, us being in the space that we are right now, you know, it's a great space. It's a space
It
of
is.
peace. You know, God has been wonderful to
I
us.
tell
know,
you
I'm
right
telling you,
now, He
God
have
has been so
been
good. He's
good.
opened doors for us and did things for us
Yes.
that I've never ever thought that I'd be doing.
Exactly,
You know, to
never.
This day, you know, caused us to be able to open up a business, to do some things.
Meet
that,
some amazing
you know, some
people.
amazing
Amazing people down this road.
Yeah. You know,
Yes.
so that's a plus. You know, but it's still, I think my wife used the word, it's still some residue.
It is.
back
It's
there.
residue.
It's still
Yeah.
sometimes, you know, that you think about your past, like, you know, I had to overcome some PTSD.
Yeah. That's
You know what I mean?
right.
Post-traumatic
That's what it is.
Post-traumatic
PTSD, I'm
stress
telling
disorder.
you.
Like, man, I remember jumping out the window, running from the police.
For real, I'm telling you.
That really happened.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
for real.
You know,
Yeah, boy, I'm
you know,
telling you.
almost getting my head blew. You know,
A
blew
lot.
off and all
Boy,
that,
y'all
you know
just
what I
wait.
mean?
We
It's
got
just-
a lot to
it's-
talk about. It's a
some
lot.
things,
It's a lot.
some stories we're gonna share.
It's a lot.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
About
we
some
don't look
things
like
that,
it. We
you
don't look
know,
like what we've been
So
through.
when I say, like, you know, I said it before, like, we didn't have the church mannerisms growing up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because we was really in them streets. So, you know, I said something in the last episode. When you're dealing with young people,
Yeah.
you have to meet them where they are.
You do.
You have to
gotta
be able
come
to,
down.
you know, come down to their level and be able to talk to them about, you know, the experiences that they dealing with, because we've been there before.
We've been there.
You
Been
know
down
what I
through
mean?
there.
You got to be able to, you know, tell them, like, man,
Yeah.
I know what that is. I seen that before.
Yes.
I seen that episode before.
Yes.
I read that book before. I was in that book.
Yes.
So I already know what that is. I already know what that story is like. And I know how that story gonna end if you don't, you know what I mean, if you don't take a different route. So yeah, I mean, it's you know, it's just so much that we're thankful for, to be able
Yes. God
to
is
share on
good.
this platform and to be able to, again, change the algorithm. You know, I know it's touching stories and things of that nature, but it's a better way.
There is a
You
better
know, if
way.
you're dealing with some depression right now from the residue that you've experienced when you was a child, if you're dealing with some anxiety and PTSD from the residue that you've experienced as a child because you wasn't taught or trained, or you dealt with that generational curse of being told that you wasn't gonna make it, or you wasn't gonna amount to anything, or you seen things with your eyes that stuck to you, that traumatized you, or caused you to want to gravitate to what you saw, is a way out. You know, it's a way out. It is a way out, you know, because I'm pretty sure if you're watching this, you probably have experienced that.
Yes.
And you probably are going through some things right now. And some people need a voice that they could, you know, hear to tell them that there is a better way and there is a way out. And God is able to do that. So, you know, I'm going to pass it over to my wife and let her, you know,
But yeah,
kinda close it out.
Yeah, we're going to close it out, y'all. We had 34 minutes, so we don't want to bore y'all, hold y'all too long. But this is just the beginning of it. We just wanted to open up, let you guys know who we are, where we came from, and how did we get to this point. On that next episode, we'll go in depth of where we are
And we're going to share some stories with y'all. Y'all just bear with us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And yeah, just come vibe with us.
Come vibe
come
with
down
us.
this journey with us. And like I
Yes.
said, we got some goodies. We got some giveaways. We got some things we're going to be doing. We got some vlogs. We're going to get out here in these streets, you know, and we're going to, you know, just try to uplift and encourage as best as we could. So
Yes.
thank y'all for joining us on
Thank y'all
this episode.
for joining us.
Vibing
with the
Bostons.
Bostons.
And don't
What
forget,
is it? Go ahead. You finna say it.
good vibes.
Good vibes only.
And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And join us on our Vibing with the Bostons group. You know, follow that on Facebook. Follow the Vibing with the Bostons page on Facebook. We got a lot of, you know, and follow Vibing with the Bostons YouTube channel as well.
Yes,
you
we
know?
do have a YouTube channel.
Yeah,
yes,
and invite
Vibing with the
somebody.
Bostons.
Invite somebody. And again, if you're looking for a church home, you know, we attend Bethlehem Temple of the Apostolic Faith, 2528 Roosevelt Road, where our pastor is Bishop Jerry Baldwin Jr.
Yes.
If you can't make it to church, you can follow us on the church page, Bethlehem Temple of Kenosha, the YouTube page, Bethlehem Temple of Kenosha. You know, follow us. Come uplift the Lord with us.
Yes.
So, thank you to our vibers. Peace, love,
Peace.
and good vibes only.
Good vibes only. Salute. Oh. It was on the button. Welcome.
Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Vibing with the
With the
Bostons.
Bostons. We gotta sit together. All right. Welcome everyone back. All our vibers to Vibing with the Bostons.
All right,
Ready?
we got it.
Okay. All right. Okay, ready?
Welcome, everybody.
Welcome
Another
back.
edition of
Vibing with the Bostons.
That's lame.
There it is.